So, welcome back to Servant Leaders Library, the show where we shelve the ego, dust off real world leadership stories, and flip open a fresh chapter on what it really takes to build thriving organizations. I'm your host, Nicholas Paluco, CEO of One to One Incorporated, your friendly neighborhood managed IT and cybersecurity firm, which basically means my team keeps business safe and running. Today, we're cracking open a volume written by someone who knows how to turn financial vision into community impact. Our guest is Ann Kelly, CFO of Hunt, a fully integrated real estate development force with a footprint stretching across the Sun Belt and a growth pace that makes most organizations need a nap. Ann leads the financial strategy behind Hunt's multifamily home building land development divisions. And we're talking capital planning, cash flow mastery, financial accounting, reporting, tax strategy, basically all the magic that keeps growth engine humming, while adding 600 new multifamily units a year, closing over 550 homes annually, and expanding into new markets. And through it all, Ann and her team holds tight to H.H. Hunt's core values and brand promises, providing that growth isn't just about, numbers. It's about building communities, cultivating trust, and delivering on communities to residents, partners, and teammates alike. So brew your coffee, grab your favorite highlighter, and settle in, because today we're talking strategy, stewardship, and the kind of leadership that turns spreadsheets into stories of real impact. So let's open the book here with Ann. Ann, thanks for joining us today, and kind of let's get the party started a little bit. What drew you into finance ultimately, and a little bit about how you ended up at H.H. Hunt.
So welcome. Thank you, Nick, and thank you for having me today. I ended up at I have actually a background in economics and history.
Oh,
Funny enough, I
wow.
thought I was going to be a foreign service agent when I wanted to travel the world. But as things go, life has different plans for you. And I was always good with numbers. And when I came out of Virginia Tech, I'm a Hokie.
Okay.
Um, it was job market wasn't great, and I found a position in an accounting department, and I was good at it. Debits and credits, and I had taken some accounting as an econ major,
Okay.
and I got really good at it. And then as I worked my way, I was at a real estate REIT for a while,
Okay.
and then from there, I did my fair share of startups, and then an opportunity came in early 2000s at H.H. Hunt. And it was at a, point in my life where I was getting married and things of that nature. And I thought, okay, because I was at a startup at the time, I said, this
Okay.
might be a nice change of pace a little bit. And came to Hunt. And it was my second time working in real estate. And it's just one of those places that it felt like home.
Oh,
I don't know how else to describe it. The people, the culture, what we did. And from there, that was in '01. And from there, it's just been an incredible journey. I love what I do. Um, I love the people I work with. And it just, what we do is hard. There's nothing about it easy because, we hold true to our mission and brand promises, but we also hold true to being excellent on the financial side as well. So when you marry the two together, um, there's a lot of work that has to be done to make that happen. But at the end of the day, it's a really special place to be. And it makes it fun when you're in the trenches with other people who believe the same thing.
oh, that's amazing. What a story. I gotta ask before we go on. You just snuck it in there. You wanted to do what when you got out of school?
I wanted to travel the world and work for the Foreign Service. I wanted to, possibly, negotiate deals with foreign
Wow.
countries and be an ambassador one day. I should
Wow.
have known that wouldn't have worked since I'm not gifted in languages. I should have thought about that a little
Ah,
first.
okay. Okay. Okay.
But so I did international economics and history because
Wow.
you have to understand the culture of the countries, which was interesting. And I loved the study of it. Practically, it probably wasn't the best place for me.
I got to tell you, all great plans seem to not necessarily navigate in a straight line, right? So,
No journey does.
and no, Dirty does too. Well, congratulations. What great work. And I really love the statement that you said there about like culture, like the culture and the business aspects of things kind of aligning, right? Like that
Yes.
is a lot of work, right? I mean, to keep a culture and staying true to kind of mission and values, as well as financially managing to that, can be a challenge. We hear a lot about that when we talk about that on this podcast. It's just interesting on, how do you go about that, right? Like there's the financial strain, and then there is the culture and the values. And I think, what have you found in your experience is the most difficult to align with both of those?
I think sometimes when you hold the financial side, when you say this is the EBITDA we have to hit, or this is the expense we have to manage to, or the income. When you're talking numbers, and then there's always a people aspect to it.
Mm,
um it's hard, and you
mm,
have to think about, you have to be innovative, and you have to think about how it to best navigate it, through whichever company you're at. There are times that we've had to make hard decisions, but we also do it in a very thoughtful and caring way. We don't It's not our first go-to,
right,
when
right,
the economy changes and we have to make those. It's in our world, it's usually the last thing we go to. We'll
right,
cut out other things, but I think the big thing is always treating people with respect and having empathy for the situation, whatever it is. But I'll tell you, being a growth company, that's what HH Hunt, we're fully integrated real estate firm. And what we do is grow. Harry Hunt
mm,
founded HH Hunt 60 years ago.
wow,
Um, it's actually, it'll be 60 years next year. We're having a gala for it. And his whole thing was, I don't think he ever thought the glass was half empty. He always thought it was half full. I don't think he ever saw a recession, and he never took his foot off the gas.
uh,
So he created an environment of very entrepreneurial, and you have to figure it out. The other thing too is we do run what I consider kind of lean and mean. Well,
yeah,
no, I would say we definitely have work-life balance here, but we also try to be cognizant of being very thoughtful when we bring people on, because
mm,
because we're real estate, we have cycles.
yeah,
We don't have to lay people off. That's the last thing we want to do. So we're very thoughtful in how we put business plans together
mm.
and take all those aspects into consideration.
That's great. Tell the listeners a little bit. You said a key word there, right? We're a growth-based organization. And from your definition, what other types of organizations are there outside of growth? And maybe what makes them different? Like, and is it different people? Is it different ways you go about decision making? What makes a growth
So
organization different?
So for us, a growth organization is, I believe we're at maybe 26 apartment units, and our
Okay.
goal is to start two a year. So an
Okay.
apartment community for us is 300 units.
Okay.
Our footprint is Maryland to Georgia,
Okay.
and we go as far west as Tennessee. And
Okay.
we're always looking for markets that are growing, have good job growth, and people want to live there. We've always hung our flag on good school systems, where your family wants to live, where you want to live and grow up. And so that's always been key for us. So for us, and it's not just the apartment side, because we do also manage all of our apartments, it's also the
Yeah.
home building side.
Okay.
um, we have divisions in Richmond, Raleigh, and Wilmington. Wilmington's a new market for us. I think we've been there. This is our second year.
Wow.
And as markets change and as people's preferences change, we're always trying to look as to what the next place to go is.
Mm, mm,
So for us, growing is constantly finding new markets, new ways of doing things.
mm.
We also look for new opportunities in real estate. We do try to, part of the reason we have the multifamily and the home building is they typically when it's really good in home building, usually the multifamily isn't
Uh-huh.
growing as much and vice
I
versa.
see.
So
I see.
we like to have our eggs diversified,
Nice.
which makes it nice for us, which helps us during economic challenges.
That's smart.
And when you think about other companies, there are other companies where their business is more about continuing what they're doing.
Mm.
And while we want to continue what we're doing, we're always thinking about what's the next market, what's the next big
Mm.
thing. I can remember when dog parks became a thing in apartment complexes. Like, what's the next big thing? People, it's not about where you live, it's about how you live. And
Right. I love
Buddy's
that.
always said, how you live, it's how you live that matters. So
Ah,
we want your home to have an experience.
love
And on
it.
our home building side, that's the single most expensive thing most people will ever buy. And I think
Absolutely.
it's pretty cool to to give people their home. Like, one thing I like about our company is I can see what our dollars are doing. I can see the
I
construction. I
love
can
that.
see it
The
being
impact.
built. I can see the impact. And
Yeah.
ever since the recession, the ho- the home building side, whether it be apartments or homes, is significantly underbuilt compared to the amount of families being formed. So, we need homes for people to live in and to grow in and to raise their
Absolutely.
kids or whatever their choice of how they want to live. But they need places to do that. And it's kind of cool what you can see your dollars do in a community and how it can change things.
That's amazing. That's amazing. As you've kind of been in this growth mode, right? Like from a leadership standpoint, like what's the biggest leadership lessons that you've learned kind of in your journey moving into kind of the C-suite over the years?
I don't have all the answers. I definitely work with a very strong team. Um, as you said, I lead accounting and finance, but I also work very heavily with operations. I mean, years ago, I actually sat for the GC license, so I do carry my
Wow.
class at a GC, because it's good to understand how things go together and how they're built.
Right.
So if you're trying to figure out ways to either save money or do things
Efficiency.
differently,
Yeah.
yeah, you need that skill set. So as things have changed, I really lean heavily into the expertise of others. I think I think some people have this vision that once you're at the C-suite, you know everything. That is not the truth.
Oh.
But what you have figured out, well, what I feel like I've figured out by now is I know how to ask people, like, all
Mhm.
right, I need your expertise. I need your help. You need to collaborate. You need to lean in on others and, respect their thoughts and what they're thinking and bring them to the table. Cause that's impactful and it
Mhm.
really makes your organization hum. Like, it's nothing more exciting when you get a group of people together and come up with an idea that one person it started with one person, and by the time you left the meeting, it's formed into something completely different, but something totally awesome. Back to Harry Hunt, our founder, he had a thought that the best idea wins. He didn't care where the idea came from. You could be in maintenance at an apartment, you could be leasing an apartment, or one of our builders who builds our houses. He just wanted the best idea. And he would have, before we did everything via internet, he would have boxes set up.
Oh, that's
So
neat.
you could put your idea in there, and because he didn't care where it came from, and that still holds true today.
I love it. I love it. It sounds like you guys all have a really strong, like values driven culture. Like, how did that resonate to you maybe when you joined? What do you love about it so much?
When you have a values-based culture, based on trust and respect and collaboration, it feels good. In fact, we do new meetings. Myself, Buck Hunt, CEO, and Steve Fritz, the COO, we meet every employee at the new employee meeting via Teams. And one person asked the other day, like, "How did you get here?" And I feel like from the beginning, it was always a part of who we are, a part of H Hunt. Buck Hunt, Harry's son became CEO, I believe, in 2013.
Okay.
And when we had that change of leadership, he really wanted to dive in on the brand promises and values and really um, put a stake in the ground on it. And him and the leadership at the time did a lot of work. And that's what you see on our website today. And they said, this is who we want to be. Like, and it has to start at the top. Like,
Right.
you know, there's that old saying, do what I say, not what I do.
Dude.
That
Yeah.
doesn't work.
Yeah.
You've got to walk the walk and talk the talk, and it's expected. Buck says at every meeting, we hire by these values and we fire by these values, and
Right.
we've done that. And when you have that type of impact, people sit up and take notice.
They do. I've experienced that myself. That's really neat for you to say that. How do you all measure that? I mean, how do you teach your team to measure things by core values, right? You're like saying hiring and you're saying firing. What determines that they're meeting the core values or not?
So from the beginning, we have a very what I consider thorough onboarding process that
Okay.
goes through all that. What's the expectations? And a lot of things when you talk about respect and collaboration, empathy, it's kind of like what you're taught growing up. Be nice to
Right.
people. Yes, I've got to get my work done. Yes, I have to meet these goals, but you can do it in a nice way. It's
Mhm.
basically, okay, let's do what we're taught and follow through. And we set those expectations out in onboarding. We have something that our HR staff, that's led by Carrie Smith, put into place called CMEs. Like, I meet with every one of my direct reports weekly, as well as operational leaders at least once a month to understand what's going on, how things are evolving, are there problems that we need to talk about as a group. And and I think all of the conversation, the communication, the interest that we each have in each other's space just continues to grow that level of trust, which just makes it a very unique place to work.
Oh, that's great. That's amazing. Congratulations to you all for that. As you kind of go through that journey, right? Like, what's the most challenging part of managing kind of like there's a lot of capital, right? Like, there's a lot of capital planning, cash flow across all these different divisions from like multifamily to home building to land development. Like, I assume that becomes very challenging sometimes. How do you navigate that?
So it's interesting to go back to Harry Hunt. From the beginning, we do 10-year cash flows twice a year. So
Okay.
it's bred in our nature to understand cash flow, not just as a CFO, but every operational leader participates. We have, of course, performers on every project, um, whether it be under construction or running. So every year, every 6 months, we dive in, create a 10-year cash flow. I'll tell you, the first 3 years are pretty good. Beyond that, it's a lot of assumptions, but it's on paper. It's on paper. So,
Right.
being a growth company, our cash flow has plans out, new apartment communities. It plans out, additional home building companies. Our land development team has, new communities for them. So all that is thought about constantly. We're constantly looking for new deals. We're constantly trying to find where we should be building and where we should be going. And we're constantly running the cash flows to understand how does that work in our capital stack. One thing that H Hunt has always done from a capital stack is we've been a HUD borrower. And I don't know how many people know what that means, but it's 40-year non-recourse. It's a program through the federal government that we have always been a very big participant in as part of our capital stack. We still are a HUD borrower, and that's how we do a lot of our construction is through the HUD program. We also do Fannie and Freddie. We have a few conventional, but we typically transfer them over to a HUD loan once
I
they're
see.
stabilized in a few years. So, we have a very thought out plan, but we're always thinking, should we do something a little different? Should we try a different capital stack for a different project? And every time we've done it, we're like, okay, we didn't like that about HUD, but we don't like this about this particular product. So it's always a learning process and figuring out what's out there and what opportunities you can take. But it's very important. Cash flow pays the bills, as
It
I
sure does, doesn't it?
so it does. So it's very important to understand that, and it's a huge focus. And it was interesting when the recession came, the Great Recession came in '07. I don't know that a bank had asked me for a cash flow, but we always had it because it was part of who we are as our DNA. And I just whipped it out and they were like, oh my gosh. Like, I think they all ask for it now, but back in the day they didn't.
That's amazing. Well, let's switch to leadership a little bit. I mean, you've moved into all kinds of organization, like startups to real estate, etc. So talk about those that might be listening that are trying to understand, like, what is it to be a leader? How do I get into leadership? Could you maybe give us a little insight on your journey through that, and maybe some tips or tricks on what you felt kind of is a good leader, I guess, right? And how you got into those positions.
Sure. So I think as my journey has gone, it's interesting. I think my initial thing was when I always joined a company or started a new position, I wanted to understand the work of the work. So I was
Mm,
very much a person that wanted to understand every little detail.
mm,
And, when you're beginning your career, that's a good thing because you need to understand how the company works, how things are moving through the company. And and then you move to the next step where you don't know as much about every detail. So you have to get comfortable. And that's where the whole piece of, leadership with setting goals and expectation and trusting your partners to get into the details that you once managed once upon a time. And I feel like initially in your career, you start with managing the work, and then
mm,
you move to the next step where you're managing people. And then your next step, I feel like, is becoming the leader.
mm,
And through that, I've always I've always treated people the way I always wanted to be treated. I always would not ask someone to do something that I wouldn't do myself. So and I think it's being humble. Like, yes, there are demands on all of us, there are deadlines, and I have very high expectations of all of my team members, and they always they always meet and exceed my expectations, and they're not by any stretch of the means easy to meet. But I think because we have that relationship that we've, grown together, and being that leader that is willing to sit down and explain things when it's not as clear as
right,
as it might be to other people. It's taking time, it's having that open door, it's understanding that everybody else might be in a different place than you are,
right.
and accepting where they are and figuring out, okay, if we need to get from A to B, how do we get there,
Mm.
and coming up with a plan.
What do you think your biggest challenge was when you moved navigated through those levels, right? I mean, we all run into challenges, but I mean, what would you say is one is memorable to you?
So it's interesting because I actually left Hunt in '08, and I actually came back 4 years later.
Really? Okay.
I did. I'm what they call a boomerang, and we have quite a few boomerangs here at Hunt. I think that also speaks to the culture. Yeah. So, I came here young, started as an accounting manager, worked my way up. I think when I left in '08, I was controller of the homes division. So
Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
I was head of all accounting and finance from homes. And then when I left, I was pregnant with my second child, thought I wanted maybe a change of pace. And when I left, I took a step back, worked at some different places. And then I called my boss and said, I don't know if you'll ever have a place for me at HH Hunch again, but if you do, give me a call. And I think it was 6 months later, he called me and said, I'd like for you to come back basically in the role that you left. And I was like, great. And he said, while I didn't know when I left, I had my reasons for leaving. Like I said, I was pregnant and thinking I wanted something slower. When he said it was from a growth standpoint, while none of us knew it, it was the best thing I did because a lot of people saw me as that young person who started, 10 years ago as an accounting manager. And when I came back in the controller role. I had different experiences at other companies and I matured
You
and
matured. Yeah, that's great.
I was seen differently, right or wrong, than when I first walked in the door back in 2001. So while it wasn't intended to be like that, it very much was. I was seen differently. I was seen a little more maybe as an expert
Mm,
or more mature.
I
So
see.
I was taken more seriously
In the role.
in the role. So my boss at the time, the CFO, said, while it may not have been planned like that, it was probably the best thing you did.
I love it. I
And
love
it
it.
was just, it was, it was following what my gut at the time of what I thought was best for me.
Right.
I would say the other thing that was very hard is I'm very driven, as probably most people in my seat are, and I'm very focused. And when I was VP of finance and accounting, and I'd been back a little bit at this time, he came to me, he said, "What got you to this role won't get you to my seat."
Mm.
And at first, I was a little annoyed with the whole conversation, to be honest. I'm like, "You got to be kidding me." And you have to also remember, you know, I think I was the only woman in the boardroom for a long time.
Oh, okay.
So you have to have a thick skin and you
Yes.
have to almost hit a little harder than the men. And
Mm.
it's just, you're in construction.
Right.
You have to get your point across. I was always polite, but I was known for wielding a hammer, a little strong at times because of the environment that I felt like I was navigating.
I see. I see.
But when I wanted the CFO role, it was more about not being direct and not being laying your idea on the table. It's about more being influential
Mm.
and creating that synergy. And if you had an idea, let everyone else talk first.
Love
A
it.
lot of time, and yeah, and then from there, ask questions to maybe. And at the times, a lot of times, my ideas change through the questioning, and it's a collaboration of what I thought we needed versus what other people's thoughts were, and you get to somewhere different. But I worked for quite a while with an executive coach to learn a different style, in order to be softer,
Mm.
in order more to be more of an influencer than than a director, so to speak.
I gotcha. I love it.
Because what I had to do in my younger years was be a little bit of a harder hitter, be more direct, get the results we needed, work with the builders, things of that nature. But then when I get to this role, it's different. And I
Completely.
didn't realize how different it would be till I got here.
I love that. I mean, you kind of, I think in the beginning you said kind of you had to have curiosity, right? You had to be very curious and ask really great questions. Then you go into the aspect of kind of having a mentor and understanding how to navigate that, the different levels kind of a leadership there. That's really great advice. As you've kind of, you're now in that CFO seat, we have to know, since you brought it up, what's one strategic decision you've made that's had big transformation in the organization?
So I think it's one we're currently doing now. I actually attended it was a women in the C-suite. And through that, I met a woman named Kim Mon, and she is owner of Max Potential, which is an AI firm.
Okay. Okay.
And I knew we needed to incorporate that into the company or we would be left behind. So I went to Buck Hunt. He was all over it. He's like, I agree. So now I'm the executive sponsor for our AI initiative at
Nice.
HHM. And we are currently training all of our employees on Copilot Chat.
Excellent.
Yes, and we are looking at how the current systems we have, what AI initiatives each one of those are currently bringing to the table, how we can then bring that to our people. Because and people, there's some people who are scared of AI.
Yes.
And what I will tell you is, I don't think AI will take your job, but I think someone who knows how to use it will.
Mm,
So I think it's important. Knowledge is power. And I think
yes.
it's important to dive in, figure it out, and learn it because it is pretty cool. And don't be scared of it. Will things evolve? Will things change? Yes. But that doesn't mean you're being left behind. It just means something else is going to evolve and you're just going to evolve with it. But you need to learn
Absolutely.
it and you need to gain the knowledge. And I would say, we could talk about the capital stacks and Fannie versus Freddie versus, debt funds and all the other strategic things that my team and I have made. But I think the AI to date, will probably be the biggest so far.
Mm,
Um, because I think it's going to be transformational in the long run.
right.
Rick said something, and I find it true. We didn't know what the internet was going to do in the 90s, but it knew it would change. This is the same of AI. I
Yeah,
don't know exactly where it's all going,
that's
but I
right.
do think it's going to change how we work and
We
how
call
we
that
work.
curve jumping, right? Like this is a
Yes,
huge curve jump and we don't know where it's going to necessarily go, right?
exactly. So, like I said, I think it's important for everyone to dive in and learn it and see how, because what it does is it allows you to play above your weight. You
Mm,
should treat it like a personal assistant. You should have it open and asking it at least at a minimum 3 to 4 questions a day.
mm, I love it. Now, kind of taking that in that way, right? You're talking about communication and sending, things downward into the organization. How do you communicate like financial strategy to a non-financial leader in a way that it kind of gives clarity, it inspires, and they don't like panic, right? I mean, you're dealing with things that many people probably that say in one of your roles, like as a controller at that one time, right? That they maybe didn't know, and it might make them feel uneasy. How do you communicate that simply? How do you send that message on the complexity of the financial aspects of things?
On the financial aspects, once a year, my team and I, we do an annual report that we actually
Okay.
publish to our employees and to our financial business partners that explains what we're doing and how we're doing it. And while we are a growth company, we also are very cognizant of financial trends, and
Okay.
therefore we
Okay.
do have a cash management plan. So while we are growth, we do assess every risk. So when someone has a question, how I financial strategy is we always plan out, like I said, our 10-year cash flow. We put
Okay.
things in there that we know we can master. Do we stretch ourselves? Yes, but we always also have reserves. So we're very thoughtful in how we plan. And
Okay.
while we are always looking to exceed expectations, I do also think that we do a great job at our treasury and cash management and how we think about that and how we invest in that and how we manage the risk with the fact that we are in in some ways a high risk type of world on the real estate side. But one thing you do to manage risk, and this is something Harry said, you always build in a location.
Mm,
So your risk starts with the land. If you buy your
okay.
land wrong, you never get it right.
Right.
Um,
That
You
makes
never,
sense.
you can't build it correctly. You can never overcome a bad land purchase. But what I will say is, when we talk about the financing, we talk about the fact that our apartments build our wealth. our home building gives us our cash flow. We take our cash
Okay.
flow, we invest it back into the apartments, which then we're a long-term holder. Um, we create our wealth. So
Mm,
it's
that's great. That
yeah,
simplifies things. That
it
that makes it
simplifies
really
things.
easy to understand.
Well, yes, we'll go
Well,
with that.
that was very good. Thank you. And how do you kind of share it? So we're going to get to servant leadership here. So share an example of what you would consider servant leadership, and maybe how you witnessed it in H Hunt. I mean, you speak very highly of the core values and everything. So kind of attach that to kind of servant leadership. How have you witnessed it? Do you have an example?
We think about it. Um, I feel like we do it every day with just how we with what our core values are. I feel like
Okay.
it's just part of who we are. Um, you know, so we brought on we brought on our own legal counsel for the
Okay.
first time back in um back in February. And, part of that is sitting down with someone very talented. And, through leadership, I created a plan that mapped out for her to meet all these different people and
Okay.
sit down and explain the cash flow, explain how we make money, explain the flow of everything and the people and through it all for her to gain. We're not an easy company to understand. We have over 200 LLCs, so it
Wow.
takes time to absorb it.
Right.
And I just feel like through sharing knowledge and being thoughtful about it is ultimately, the servant leadership that you want.
Mm,
It's about, I th- just like Hunt says, it's about how you do, not what you do.
mm.
And I think that's at the core of servant leadership. It's how you do it.
Ooh, I love it.
I think, in your podcast, you interview tons of very successful people. And I think the one thing we probably all have in common is how we do it.
Ah, I love
And
that.
and I think, what, you know, what other CFOs do, we all have the same goals, to be financially stable, to have high cash reserves, to have a stable capital stack. All of those goals are similar for all CFOs. But I think how we go about doing it and how we include people and what their role in creating that is probably very different. And being a servant leader is part of empowering your people. All of my people are empowered to do what they do best.
Mm.
And we have open lines of communication where yes, ultimately sign off on everything,
Right, right.
but they are empowered to do what they do best, and they're very good at it. And because of the trust and because of the values, I'm comfortable empowering them with that.
Ah, and you trust them.
And
That's a key word.
it is, and I think that's ultimately what it is. I mean, to say an example, I feel like we do it every day, but we had 5 properties, we bought through a 1031 process,
Okay.
and we needed to change the capital stack on them because it was coming due. I could choose to run that project, but instead I empowered my VP of finance. He went out, he brought some ideas, then our VP of asset management and him worked together on what would be best and then presented it to myself and the rest of the EC.
Oh, that's
And we
great.
ultimately, we talked about as a group, it came up with the plan and we executed. And I think that's the power of the organization.
Right.
It's the empowerment that a servant leader is okay giving up. I don't need the accolades. I don't need the thank yous, but I think it's important for all the people who you work with to understand how much they're appreciated and that their work that they do and they're
Has an impact.
equal has an impact and they're equal
Yeah.
partner in the table stake.
Yeah, I love that. And you talk about kind of your role. I got to ask you a funny question. So, what's one misconception people have about CFOs that you wish that you could debunk?
One,
Uh-oh, it sounds like you have a
ah,
lot here.
oh God. Well, I don't think we're quite as boring, and I don't carry a pocket protector.
I love it.
And it's interesting. CFOs at different companies, have different skill sets. At Hunt, you have to have a very strong finance skill set
Okay.
versus, I have my senior vice president of accounting who is a CPA and knows GAAP and is all that. Because of the multifamily side and the high level of finance and capital stack we have, this role weighs heavily on that as long as you have that partner to guide you through the nitty gritty of the gap and rules and reporting. And of course, we have a very good audit team as well. But for us, it's for this role at this company, finance plays a very high part of what we do. But I would say, CFOs, we aren't as boring as people say we are. We don't carry pocket protectors, and a few of us do have rhythm.
All right, fair enough. Well, if you well, as you kind of look back in your career someday, what impact do you hope to say that you made?
I hope that I gave, s- I hope that one day that someone says that I gave them the opportunity to be who they want to be. I
Nice.
hope that there might be a little girl out there that says, I want to be in construction. Um,
Okay, I love it.
I was very fortunate to have parents that said you can do anything you want to do.
Mm,
And I hope that through empowering people and giving people a chance and being sympathetic or empathetic to where they are, and when you give them that shot, that they feel the same, that they can be anything or anybody that they want to be. Because I think ultimately, we all have a lot of gifts and we're all good at lots of different things. And I think sometimes you just need the chance to prove yourself.
mhm.
And I hope at the end of the day that people come away saying that they learned something from me and that I gave them a shot.
I
And
love it.
and that's and that somehow I positively impact them at the end of the day.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's a blessing. And if as you kind of move into that a little bit more, and because this is Servant Leaders Library, I got to ask you this one. If leadership were a book, what chapter are you currently writing for yourself?
Mm, Probably somewhere in the middle of the book. I
In
still
the
got
middle.
a lot left to do.
You got all right. Fair enough. Fair enough. You have any titles for it?
Mm. Someone always tells me the first what is it? The first thing that goes with the sorry. A title.
For the chapter, right? Like what's your chapter title, you know?
Mm, Unexpected gifts.
Ooh, okay, okay. I didn't expect that one. That one's great. I like that. I like that.
I think that would be the chapter because I feel like I've been blessed in a lot of ways and I'm thankful for the gifts I've been given. And I think the important thing to do is to share those gifts.
What a blessing. Well, all right, I have one last question for you before we wrap up. So this is an interesting one. What's the most CFO thing you do at home that your family teases you about?
Um, give orders.
Give orders. Okay.
I'm known as, yeah, yeah. I like things the way I like them. So probably they're like, all right, come on, mom, we don't work for you.
All right. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Ann, we really appreciate you today. You've given us an extreme amount of insight and a lot to chew on here, and we really appreciate you very much. So,
Thank you for the time. I've enjoyed this. I'll have to admit, I've been very nervous about this, but you
oh,
made it very easy, and I thank you very much.
Absolutely. I mean, you have such a story to tell, and we appreciate you very much. We do so much. Well, everyone, that brings us to the end of another chapter here in the Servant Leaders Library. Huge thanks to Ann Kelly for joining us today and providing that CFOs don't just crunch numbers. They build, futures, fuel growth, and somehow keep entire organizations from lighting their budgets on fire. A true gift to humanity. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe, share the episode with a friend, or send it to someone who still thinks cash flow is optional. We're here to help. I'm Nicholas Paluco, CEO of One to One, your local managed IT and cybersecurity firm, keeping technology tidy so leaders like Ann can focus on building communities, not rebooting routers. Thanks for listening. Thanks for leading. And remember, in this library, servant leadership never goes out of print. Until next time.